Hi, welcome back to Wallflowers. So as you can see, we're out and about today and we're actually just taking a look at potholes in the road, pieces of land that the council are selling off because they don't want to pay for the repairs and the damage underneath the roads that could cause sinkholes or any other form of damage. Today, I want to talk about something that's closer to home than most people realise. It's the ground beneath us and the hidden risk it carries. So, in my own town, much of the land's built over old mine shafts. That means the earth below us isn't always solid, and in some places it's hollowed and unstable. Now, you'd think that'd mean big investments in safety, monitoring, or repairs. But the truth is, the council don't always have the budget to deal with it. So instead of fixing the ground, sometimes the land is sold, and that means passing the financial burden to whoever buys it. That's where I want to start today, because the sinkholes aren't just about collapsing roads or sudden holes in the earth. They're about decisions, responsibilities, and who ends up paying for the cracks beneath our feet. Let's be, let's be clear, there are ways to secure and repair the ground. Engineers can fill the cavities with concrete or grout. They can reinforce weak spots with steel cages, or lay down proper support before new roads or homes go on top. But all of this costs serious money. So councils face a choice. Do they find the funds and take responsibility? Or do they sell the land, shifting that burden onto someone else? A developer, a business, sometimes even a homeowner who may have no idea what lies below their garden. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Paperwork can transfer ownership, but it isn't magically, should I say, it can't magically make the land safe. Across England, we've seen sinkholes opening in housing estates, school fields, car parks, even quiet suburban streets. For the people living there, it's not just a collapsed patch of ground, it's upheaval, repair costs, and sometimes homes that suddenly lose their value. Meanwhile, the council can point to the fact that they no longer own the ground. The responsibility is being dealt with on paper, but the physical risk remains. And that's why I wanted to bring this into the conversation, because when the ground literally opens up, you can't just pass the buck. Not when people's safety, homes, and daily lives are at stake. So where I'm standing now is actually just what used to be a piece of grass. I've got no microphone on there. It used to be a piece of grass, and as children sometimes we play on here. This area in Digmore and Skelmersdale is where I grew up, and that's where we are today, Digmore and Skelmersdale. And this was just a piece of grass we'd play on. There was lots of different pieces of grass and this was one of them. There was never any intention to build on these pieces of grass. They were just trimmings to the town. We've always been known as a green area. We've known there's subsidence, we've known there's sinkholes, we've known there's things that you shouldn't build on these pieces of land. We were refused a hospital many times because of the land's not being safe to build on. There's been so many areas that we've been told as people of the Skelmersdale area, you cannot build on that area, it's not safe. Yet all of a sudden, private developers are being given the get-go. These flats people have lived in since before my childhood. They bought them, they invested in them, They had happy lives in them. They've lived there all their married life. And all of a sudden the ones that are left in there have been paid off to leave. Now as we walk a bit closer, it's that one, sorry, it's that one. You can see the investment, you can see the machinery, you can see the ground being torn up, you can see the piles of soil, you can see the security cameras, you can see investments. Whereas these flats were sold off to people, they were still expensive, it was still a life savings for someone to buy the flat, or any other area you would class it as quite cheap. To these people it was the home. They've been sold off now, so they've had to go and find and rebuild their lives somewhere else. So this company could build here, but the council are going to demolish the rest of these buildings and maybe throw some of these up.
Not the council, it'll be
the private company. But they've also took the bit of greenbelt land as well on top of it. So they'll have been the ones that, if they haven't secured that ground, they will be responsible. Now I just went across, there's a pub and a little bit of a pizza house, etc. across the road. And just off camera I spoke to a couple of people. One was a delivery guy who lives local, and the other guy was the prospective owner of the business. And I just said, you know, I'm a local lady, I do a video channel, what's your thoughts? Because I grew up here, I know exactly the negligence we've been faced with. There was never any repairs done properly, the council always had no budget, etc. And we could see the damage and the potholes. My husband's driving on the roads every day, just like you guys are. He said, yeah, it's a mess, it's a mess. I said, well, did you actually witness, you're there every day going to that building, did you actually witness them injecting any cement? Did you witness them putting caging down? Because we all know we live on top of minefields here. You know, the mine shafts are everywhere. We all know what we're living on and what we're walking on. Did you notice them putting any security under the ground there? Cages, cement, anything at all? Now, one guy said they started in the end of February. By the end of March it was completed, the whole building was through up. So in that time they haven't secured the ground, so anyone who comes and buys the property, the ground isn't secure underneath it. And are they going to do it with all of these as well? This is what's happening over and over and over again. It's not just happening in this town, it's happening everywhere. I just find it crazy. People are unsure to come on camera and say the views. I can appreciate that to an extent, but it's crazy. Now, you know, just like everywhere else, some parts aren't attractive, but some parts are quite serene. We've got lots of green, lush fields. You can just see here the pavement I'm walking on now. It's erupting. They've tarmacked it over and tried to disguise, but what's underneath it? The water's seeping through. We're living on a mine shaft and they're not securing what's underneath our feet. You can see the greenery, it's lush. How long before they're building on this now? How long before the school can't afford to maintain any patches within their greenery and they sell that off to housing complexes? You may hear it in my voice, it does irritate me. It does irritate me. People invest all their life. We've gone to these infant schools, junior schools, senior schools. We've spent our whole life in these towns, spent every penny we've had, improving our homes, living our lives here. Now think about what we see every day. Potholes, cracks in the tarmac, dips in the road that never seem to get fixed properly. Here in Lancashire, Heavy vehicles pound along roads that were never designed for them, and you can almost feel the ground protesting. Sometimes it starts as a pothole, then it becomes a dip, and then without warning, the surfaces give way. That's the ground saying, I can't carry this load anymore. And even the Beatles noticed it. Back in 1967, John Lennon read a report in the Daily Mail about potholes in Blackburn. The survey counted 4,000 holes in the roads, and he thought that number was so ridiculous, he wrote it straight in the song, A Day in the Life. So when we see holes every day, it's not a new problem. It's one we've been singing about, joking about, and living with for decades. The only difference is, back then it was a headline, and now it's our daily drive. In the past 2 years alone, England has seen dozens of sinkholes reported, some caused by natural erosion, some by burst pipes, and some by old mine shafts finally giving way. Each one is a reminder that the surface we trust every day isn't always as stable as it looks. But more than that, they're a reminder of choices about budgets, about responsibility, and about whether communities are protected or left to manage risks alone. So maybe the next time you see a crack in the pavement or a pothole in the road, it's worth asking, is this just wear and tear, or is there a sign of something deeper? And if it is, who's really responsible for making it safe? Because at the end of the day, sinkholes aren't just holes in the ground, they're gaps in responsibility. And unless someone's willing to stand up and take the cost, those gaps don't close, they wait. Okay, thank you so much for joining me today. Please take care, remember you're loved, and I'll speak to you again soon. Bye bye.